Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be showing you how to play the guitar. So this is a video for beginners, but also people who play regularly but don't quite know the techniques and tricks that they need to know to play properly. So if you're a complete beginner or an intermediate player, this video will help you learn the basics of guitar and some of the basic chords and some picking exercises to get you better at picking. So to start out, I'm going to show you how to hold the guitar. So in every guitar, if it's acoustic or electric, there'll be a little dip here in the body, and you want to make sure that that is over your right thigh, depending on if you're a right-handed or left-handed player. But if you're right-handed, it will go over your right thigh. And then your hand, you want to have your wrist, the back side of your wrist, you want to rest that on the body of the guitar up here, and then your palm, on this flat bit of your palm here, the side of it, you want to always have that resting on the bridge of the guitar, which is this metal bit here. When you're picking, you want it resting on the guitar, so something like this. But when you're strumming a chord, you usually have your hand above everything, so it's just floating in the air, because then you get a lot of movement. So that would look something like this. So you see there that my hand didn't touch the guitar at all, whereas when I'm picking, you want your palm to be resting on this metal bit. Now, one thing you have to make sure is that your palm isn't too far towards the neck of the guitar, because then you'll mute your strings and it will sound something like this. As opposed to something like this. But palm muting is really useful in some songs, especially something like Welcome to the Jungle, where at the beginning intro riff it heavily uses palm muting. So you do want to learn that technique, but that's more for an intermediate player and not really beginner, so we'll skip over that for now. The final part of holding your actual guitar is your left hand. So with your left hand's thumb, you want to curl it over the neck of the guitar. Now, I have my thumb pointing up towards the sky like this so it doesn't get in the way, but a lot of people curl their thumbs over. But as long as you aren't muting your top E string, it doesn't really matter where your thumb is. But for example, if I strum a chord, I play like this. So you'll see it's more pointing up as opposed to something like this. But you can really use your thumb to mute the E string when you need it, because for example, when you play a chord like C, you don't want to hear that E string because it will sound horrible like this. So what a lot of guitar players do, and it's actually a really good technique so you don't have to worry about missing the string and worry about your right hand, is if you curl your thumb all the way over and just lightly place it on your E string, it will actually mute it like this. So you can't hear that, so then you can freely play your C chord. And you won't be able to hear the E chord at all. But anyway, getting back to holding the neck, you want to curl the rest of your fingers round on the guitar, so then you can freely use them. And you want them at an angle to the guitar like this. You don't want them completely parallel, because it will strain your wrist a lot here, and it just isn't useful for playing, especially when you get to playing really fast licks and things like that. Now, a lot of things people have trouble with when they start playing guitar is holding the pick. So just a really basic tutorial, and all of this is up to personal preference. Like for example, with the thumb, you can have it how you want and you can hold your hand how you want, but this is how most professional guitarists play the guitar to make it easiest for themselves. But everyone has a different technique when they're holding their pick and picking the strings. But what I do is I hold my pick like this on my finger, so it's almost perpendicular to my finger but not quite, it's at a slight angle, and then I curl that in and hold my thumb over it like that, so it kind of makes like a right angle shape where it goes like that, and that's the perfect way to hold it, because then you have your little tip of the pick here hanging out and you can easily play the strings like this. your guitar and your pick. We're going to move on to some basic picking exercises, and then we'll get onto the final bit where I'll teach you a couple of chords. So to get your picking down, you want to learn the strings of the guitar. So this is the low E string. We call it the low E string because there's two of them, but also because it's the lowest pitch out of the two. The high E string is the other end of the strings up here. So this is the low E string up here, and this is the high E string. And the way you remember it is low means lower down on pitch. So low sounds deeper and high sounds higher. You could also just call it the top E string, which means it's at the top of the guitar, and this is the bottom E string, but most people call it low and high. After that we have the A string, D, G, and B. Now, if you're playing along and it doesn't quite sound in tune, it's not your fault, it's because I'm actually playing half a step down, because a lot of rock musicians play half a step down, and I play a lot of rock music, so that's the tuning I like. But all that means is instead of this being E, this is E flat, so it moves all the notes up a note on the fretboard, so every note is one step below the note that it actually is. But don't worry about that, it sounds similar to standard tuning, so as long as you've got your guitar in standard tuning, you can do everything that I'm doing as well. So just for example, in E flat tuning or half a step down, it's no longer E and E, it's E flat and E flat, and then A flat, D flat, G flat and B flat, just for your reference. So most guitar players use alternate picking when they're playing, especially for the fast licks, and what that is, it means when you're playing your notes, so forget about chords for now, but when you're playing your notes, you pick down, up, down, up, down, up. So you don't go, because if you look at my right hand, that's all down picking, down, 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 down. You want to go, so that's down, up, down, up. Now the reason this is useful is because it really helps your playing flow. For example, if you're down here below the D string and you need to play that D string, it's way more effort to move your pick and then play again rather than just playing upwards, and it makes it easier to play fast licks. But obviously if you're a beginner, you're not going to be playing fast licks, but it's just good to get that technique down for later on. So the first thing I want you to do is go to the 5th fret on your guitar. Now you're probably wondering what frets are and why I've just said the word frets and what that even means, but basically all these metal bits along your guitar, and every single guitar has this, the metal bits are the frets. But what I want you to think of frets are is the gap in between. So there's 2 metal bits here, and in between that gap is the 4th fret. And the reason we call it the 4th fret is because there's 1, 2, 3, 4. Now on most guitars there are inlays, or there's little dots at the top here, and they help you locate all of the frets. So the first dot is for the 3rd fret, and then it goes 3rd, 5th, 7th, 9th, and then it skips 1 and goes to 12, and then it skips 1 again and goes to 15, and then it's back to 17, 19, 21, and so it goes up in 2s, apart from down here on the neck where it goes up every 3. And if you ever are reading tabs and you see a 0, that's for the open string. So when you don't use your left hand and you just pluck a string, that's 0, because it's not the 1st fret because there's no fret there, so we just call it 0. So what I want you to do is go to your low E string, and if you remember that's the top E string, and then go to the 5th fret, which is your 2nd dot or your 2nd inlay here on the actual fret here, and I want you to get your 4 fingers ready and play 5, 6, 7, 8 on the low E string with alternate picking, so down, up, and that will look something like this when we play it slowly. Now, when talking about your fingers, you can use whatever fingers make you feel most comfortable. If your pinky isn't very strong, which it isn't for a lot of players, then I suggest using it to build it up. But if you don't like using your pinky, or it hurts, or it isn't comfortable, which it isn't for me, and I rarely use my pinky, then just forget about it. And instead of using your pinky for that 4th fret, which is actually the 8th fret, you can just use your ring finger but move it up a fret after you play the 7th fret. So that'll look something like this. Now that's a lot easier for me, and a lot of famous guitarists do that, so don't worry about if you can't use your pinky, just forget about it for now and train it up using this exercise. So after you've done that, I want you to move down a string and do the exact same thing, and then do that for all 6 strings, and when you've done, we'll come back up the strings. So it'll look something like this. So every day I want you to practice that because it really helps your hand coordination between your 2 hands, which is the most important part of playing fast. And I'm sure you all want to learn how to play fast licks like some of your famous guitarists, so keep practicing that every day. I know it can be boring, so what I'm going to do is teach you some chords as well, so you can start maybe thinking of your own songs, making your own chord patterns. So the chords I'm going to teach you are C, G, A and D, and these are used in so many songs, not only rock songs or blues songs, they're used in pop songs now, even still today. Even though you might not think a lot of songs use guitars, they do, and they use a lot of chords, and especially these chords because they're the basic chords. So when we play chords, we use more than one finger, and that's basically what a chord is, playing more than one note at the same time. So for C, we're using our first 3 fingers, so our index, middle and ring finger. You want to take your ring finger and place it on the 3rd fret of the A string. So that's the 2nd string down from the top on the 3rd fret. Then you want to take your middle finger and place that 1 fret along and 1 string down. So diagonal to that note that we just played. So that's the 2nd fret on the D string. So you have that so far. And then you want to take your index finger, and it's not diagonal directly this time. It's on the 1st fret of the B string. Now you want to hold those down with a good amount of pressure, but don't press too hard, because if you do, it will start hurting your fingers, and a lot of beginners do get their fingers hurt in the beginning, but if you keep practicing, then that'll get better. And for me, it's not a problem with my fingers hurting because the calluses will build up. So once you've figured out where to put your fingers, one of the main parts of playing a chord so that you don't accidentally mute a string is make sure that all your fingers are only on those frets and aren't laying on the strings underneath, because if you did, it would sound something like this. And a lot of people get that at the beginning, but just keep practicing curling your fingers, almost like a claw, or if someone was scratching into you, curl your fingers around like that, so none of the rest of your fingers are touching the other strings, and it should sound something like this. Now, another thing I forgot to tell you is when you're putting your finger on a fret and on a note on the fretboard, you want to have your finger as close to the right. When you're looking down on the guitar, you want it as close to the right of the fret as you can. So what that means is if you're playing the 3rd fret, that's 1, 2, 3, you want to have your finger as close to this metal bit as possible, but not touching it. And the reason for that is if you have it too far to the left, it starts buzzing and sounds really horrible like this. Whereas if you have it to the right, it sounds really clear. So now that we've got that chord down, I'm going to teach you G, and G is very similar. You just take away your index finger and you move your ring and middle finger up 1 string for both of them. So instead of the A and D string, it's the E and A string, and then you take your pinky finger down here and put it on the very bottom string, the high E string, sorry, on the 3rd fret. And then if you play that all together, all 6 strings, it'll sound like this. Then the next chord is even simpler. You just want your front 3 fingers and they all go on the same fret, which can be a bit tricky actually to squeeze them all on there, especially if you have chubbier fingers, but just squeeze them all onto that 3rd fret on the D, G and B string, and then play that, but don't play the low E string. And make sure you aren't muting any other strings because it will sound really bad. Now once you've got all those 3 chords down, the final one uses the same 3 fingers, and this is the D chord. You want to put your index finger on the 2nd fret of the G string, your ring finger on the 3rd fret of the B string, and then your middle finger on the second fret, sorry, of the high E string. So it kind of forms a triangle shape if you look at it like that. And then play that, but don't play the top 2 strings this time. So don't play E or A, and it should sound like this. So overall you should have something like this. So if we start from the C chord, and you do need to learn how to switch between chords, because for the next bit it's really useful. So if you want to go and practice that, pause the video and practice until you know how to switch between all the chords. Now, it might take you a while, so if you want to come back later on, then don't worry, but just don't forget to come back to the video. So next we need to learn the strumming pattern. So for this, it's really simple. All you want to do is go down, down, up, up, and then down, up while you're holding down the chord. So I'll play one chord for you, and then I'll play the whole part of this song. And what I did there was play it twice. So I did down, down, up, down, up, and I played that twice round for each chord. And once you've learned that, you'll be done with this little part of the song. So you can use this if you're sitting at a campfire, or you might be at your friend's house and someone has a guitar and you want to show off that you know how to play, maybe to impress a girl or something like that. And it's a really nice simple chord pattern that will impress people and show them you know how to play a song, but really you don't know anything about guitar apart from a couple of chords and how to pick. But yeah, if this video did help you, then please leave a like and subscribe to me, because it really helps out, and comment down below how I can improve. I'll be making loads more videos like this, so subscribe to me and stay tuned to my channel. But thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.